any path we want to go through in order to learn, to grow, or heal is going to have to begin with acceptance. Are you guys aware of the 5 stages of grief? Who here has heard of that? Yeah.
I have.
So do you remember what those 5 stages are?
Let's see. Anger?
Yeah.
That one's definitely. Has anyone been angry about having MS or the symptoms of MS? Or angry because the pandemic doesn't let us go swimming, right?
Yes. Anger through with menopause.
Denial.
Yeah, anger with the menopause. Then another one, denial.
Denial.
Anyone done denial? This is not really happening. We see it always on the news, right? People are like, oh, it's not really true, or it's not as bad, or even with your own symptoms, denying they're there, right?
Or dissociation, I think, is another word.
Yeah, it's another way of denial. Anger, we talked about. Bargaining.
Right.
There's always this, well, maybe if I could just, it's almost like you're trying to bargain with the devil kind of thing, right? If I could just get this back, or if I could just. And
depression.
Then depression. Exactly. Feeling like this is hopeless. I'll never be able to blah, blah, blah. This happens with getting fired, with divorce. Yeah. There's people that are depressed because they can't keep doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
sometimes there's no real definition of why that happens. It's just a kind of a malaise.
Yeah, it's almost like, I always feel like it's like your emotions are churning when there's a big unexpected thing happens. We go through all these things, and then there's a point that's just everything just kind of depresses down, and we're like stuck. But the most key piece of the 5 stages of grief is acceptance.
Right.
And actually, we cannot change anything unless we accept it. So the first stage to work with a diagnosis like MS, as much as it feels like, well, I can't accept it. If I'm accepting it, that means I'm okay with it, or means I'm not going to, trying to get better. No, it must begin with acceptance, with being aware of where I am right now. What is exactly right here? And I would ask you guys to kind of think of one thing you guys want to work with as we're going through this. This can be your diagnosis. This can be the COVID. This can be a change that you really didn't want. Or this can be something from the past that you've been continuing to do that bargaining and denial, because your mother wasn't there when she should have, or because your daughter doesn't, whatever. It's like, hold on to one as we go through this process, okay, today. And so we're going to do an exercise on that. It's actually going to be a bit of, we're going to go through all those things, we talked about in the grief process, so we can get to the other side. Okay, so if you guys have paper now, let's begin. This is the speed road to go through all those emotions and all that anger, denial, etc. So first step, I want you to take whatever you're working on, and I want you to write down and play the blame game. Tell that thing, if it's the MS, if it's the COVID, if it's your dad in the past, if it's that job that fired you when you were doing such a great job, tell it everything you don't like about it and be really specific. I don't like that you came in when I was 35 because I was in the prime of my blah, blah, blah. I don't like, and say, because that caused. I don't like that you did da, 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 because that caused. I don't like that you, pandemic, came in because I'm not able to do my schedule that I had so well organized and I was so happy with it. I don't like, and just take the next few minutes to write about everything you don't like about it. Be specific. That's the key. And just write a few words, represent that. And again, this will be recorded so you can go through it and take your time. It's a great thing. It's a great learning to use for many things that we're like, oh, you know. The second point, you get to should that thing. I'm pretty sure everyone in this Zoom knows exactly how to should. You've probably been shoulding yourself, all the I should be have, I should have been able to, you should. You get to should that thing. You tell it what it should have done instead of what it did. You start lecturing it like a good step, dad is, you should have been lighter. You shouldn't have taken that part. You should have focused on some other symptom that was easier for me to ignore. You should have, and just should the heck out of it. All that it should have done. Pandemic should have been in the winter when you had nothing going on, not in the spring when you want to go swimming, all of it. Should the heck out of it. Be specific. And then the third one, tell it how you treat it and how you treat yourself because of all those negative thoughts you have about it. So what this is, it's like, because I can't move, because you made me have like a 20-pound bag on my feet, I force you, I push you all the time. And because I push you, I feel bad about me because I feel incapable. And all the negative thoughts that you have about it. And the consequence is how you treat it, how you treat yourself. I ignore you because of what you're doing and I don't like it. And because I ignore you, I'm feeling whatever it is. Especially about how you make me feel. Because you did that, you make me feel worthless. Because I can't go at 20 miles an hour, I feel that I can't help other people, and that's what I do best. And so then I treat you terribly and I treat myself like, etc. And really, again, let it all out. Does this one make sense?
With the negative
Could you ask that?
self-talk, because
It's almost the negative thoughts you have. It's like,
well, if you just say that, then yes, but negative thoughts about
negative
disease,
thoughts you have about it, and then negative thoughts you have about yourself because of it.
I think those thoughts are because of something else.
Get all those
It's
negative
okay.
thoughts.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, because you could say, because of you, the consequences, all this other stuff happened, and I have negative thoughts about all that other stuff that happened.
Oh, that's easy. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
All right. And now I have a story to tell. There's a story of a Taoist farmer who had only one horse. And one day that horse ran away. And the neighbors came to console the farmer over his terrible loss, to which the farmer remarks, "What makes you think it's so terrible?" A month later, the horse came home, bringing 2 beautiful wild stallions with her. The neighbors became excited at the farmer's good fortune, to which the farmer remarked, "What makes you think this is good fortune?" Not long after, the farmer's son was thrown from one of the wild horses, and he broke his leg. All the neighbors exclaimed, "Oh, what bad luck!" And once again, the farmer responded, "What makes this such bad luck?" A war had erupted in nearby lands, and every able-bodied man was sent into battle. Only the farmer's son remained due to his broken leg. The neighbors congratulated the farmer for his luck. Once again, the farmer replied, "What makes you think this is good luck?" So I want you guys to take a moment to just pause and realize that the only reason you're suffering from what has happened is because of your thoughts about that thing, because of what you have interpreted, just like these neighbors. That is good luck. That is bad luck. That is terrible. And now take a moment to see that situation, that thing, that MS, that COVID, that divorce, that whatever it was, without any negative thoughts towards it. Just observe it without any negative thoughts. Nothing, no interpretation, this is bad, this is terrible. Just take a moment to observe it, as if you were a Martian coming from another planet and it means nothing to you, and just observe the situation, the event, the thing, with no negative thoughts. Just notice what is. And now you're going to address it in a different way. You've quit the blame game. Now, what I want you to do is address it and say, even though I would have preferred, and take your list of should had, I would have preferred that you didn't take this away from me, that you weren't so this, that I didn't lose this. That didn't happen, right? You, the MS, the COVID, the person, you didn't. And so literally what I love doing is having my hand just like you had cords to all these things, all this suffering, just cut it and say, I cancel my expectations. And accept that what is causing the suffering is the amount of expectations you have. And allow yourself to accept exactly what is. So go through those shoulds, that list, and start kind of filling this sentence. Even though I would have preferred not having this fatigue right when I was at the, highest height of my job, you gave me fatigue. So I cancel my expectations. Even though I would have preferred that you waited for me or had more patience, you didn't. So I cancel my expectations. And accept that you had other ideas, you had other expectations, and that now you're willing to accept exactly what is. And when you're done with that, and again, you can come back to it, we're not going to stop here, because that was the first step. This was the first step. We had to get this started. Now we want to take a step forward. And the thing about when things happen, and this is also part of the grief process, when things happen, we think, if that is lost, if that version is lost, I can never have that again. And that's not true. You might not be able to have that version, but there are many other ways to express what you really valued about that situation, thing, your body, that person. And so take a moment to write down the values, the qualities, and the things that were special to you about that which you've just been working on. So for example, if it's, with MS, perhaps you're really mad that you can't move so fast, but it's like, what about moving so fast did you value? Was it freedom? Was it the adventure? Was it the independence? What was it that you valued? Because we want to bring that forward. It just might not look the same. At least the body is not going to give it to you for a while. It's because it wants you to learn different things. But it doesn't mean you have to lose what you valued. If you're working with the loss of a person, what about that person? Was it the connection you had? Was it how truthful you guys were together? Was it how honest they were? What were those things? That you valued. And now being creative, thinking outside the box. What happens to us is we get into, this is the only way I can have this. But there's so many ways to have so many things with so many other type of people, so many other experiences. So because we can't read the future, and when we try to, things like COVID happen just to remind us that that's not under our control. There's things that we're meant to live, even though we didn't think we signed up for it. But think about, and keep it abstract, what other ways, what other forms can those things that we value take? So if you value independence and it feels like you don't have the independence you had before, what other ways can you have independence now? If it can't be as physical, can it be mental? Can it be what you decide to do first? Where do you can get more independence? If it's about adventure, now with COVID, we actually we can go to the Louvre right now on a Zoom, right? It's like, if it's adventure, what other forms can adventure take in my future? And again, be very vague. So it's almost like I'm doing something adventuresome, but you're not quite sure what it is because we never know exactly how the future will unfold, right? And consider, of course, your present age, your living situation. It's very different what we do at 20, or what we do now, or what we do when we had a family of 6, and what we do when it's just 2 of us or 1 of us. But if it's like the things that you valued is maybe honesty, is like a relationship was about honesty. Imagine being more honest. It's like having those honest connections with your neighbors, with a new friend, with a group, and just kind of envision those. And almost like, imagine putting those like on little playing cards, each one, just all these different versions of what you value. What was special to you? It's almost like you're peeling the essence from an experience. It's not the experience. We might not get it exactly that way, but what is the essence? Because that is what we want to attract in the future. Because when you just say, I can't have that anymore because since I don't have my legs like I used to, I'm never going to do, you're actually telling your subconscious, no, don't even think in that way. And you're closing off your life. But if you actually take a moment to go, well, what about that did I value? And you start thinking about and kicking in that creativity, you're asking your subconscious, I want more of that. Fine, you're telling me not in that flavor, not that way. I'm good with that. I want more of what fed me in that situation. And then as you imagine these kind of deck of cards, close your eyes. And imagine placing these deck of cards kind of in front of you, a little bit to the right. And you kind of want to, it's almost like your future is like a line. It's like a timeline that just goes to your right into infinity. And just imagine taking that deck of cards with all those different forms, and maybe we weren't 100% sure what those forms are. Just imagine you take them and actually duplicate the cards or, quadruplicate the cards, and they're extremely vague, and take your deck of cards, make the edges really shiny so they really stand out. It's like you're telling your subconscious more of this, like neon lights, open here. And now imagine taking that deck of cards and just throwing it into that future, letting it spread out into different points in that future. And as you cast those cards into the future, they just spread out and fall into different places, some near you and some far away. And when you finish doing that, you'll see all these little sparkles, all these little dots of light, all those little cards indicating where they've all landed into your future. And just kind of allow them to be right there, to stay with you, to be your guiding light towards what is important. Because accepting what is accepting the situation can't be exactly the same, but it doesn't mean that there's so many ways where you value can still remain. And then when you're ready, come fully back into your rooms. Knowing that what we did today was first we let it out. Because it is frustrating when something happens. My boyfriend actually works in construction, and he says, he used to just get stuck in that, why did that break and who broke it? And now he just sees a broken tool that no one says whose it was. And he just goes, just let it out. Let I have to deal with this change, right? But then release the judgment. Release any thoughts that because that happened, it's negative, it's detrimental, it's my, it's so-and-so's fault, it's my fault, I always get this. Let go of all the negative thoughts and just say, all right, it happened. Cancel any expectations that's any different, and accept exactly what is. Because from there, you can actually observe and understand exactly what is here now. And then take some time to realize, wow, if this really hurt, if I really had to let it out, it must mean something about it was really important for me. So spend some time to really evaluate the values. What did I value about that person, situation, thing? And envision a future where those values continue to appear in your life in new and probably healthier ways. And then, like all journeys, take a step. Take a step. Once you do that just putting those cards, your responsibility is to keep that focus. Your subconscious will help you find those things because it now knows. Has anybody had that experience when you start looking for a car? You're like, oh, I want this car. It's really original. You end up seeing it everywhere from the time you start focusing on it. It's like, oh man, I thought no one had a Dodge, van. Now I see them everywhere. It's the same thing. The minute you focus on the values you want, it's the same as looking for a secondhand car. You focus on those values, you keep that feeling, that image, that experience. Your subconscious will go, oh, here. Oh, what about here? Here's another version. Hey, what about this? But you need to have that focus. That's your responsibility. And that's all, folks. So is anybody, if they want to unmute and have any questions or anything, insights they got, or?
I always love your visual. Just hearing your voice, I was totally hypnotized and saw all that. And I absolutely really appreciate you doing that, Eva. You don't have to do this, and you're doing it, and I just love you for it.
you.
I agree. I agree.
And I would invite you guys to do this anytime you're like, oh, you know, your husband did something that, or you remember from childhood if your dad would only, and just go back on this. You know, it's a great way to go, wow, if I'm this emotional, there's something I value here. Let me just go through this process, get to the other side, and then I can move forward.
Great.
Thank you very much.